Google Studio is used to give analysts the ability to understand and process information obtained through analytics software such as Google Analytics. In this project, we analyze the data from the Google Merchandise Store to better understand consumers and their buyer's journey. With the data we obtained, we have some recommendations on how to improve the Google Merchandise Store. The first metric I want to discuss is tracking the operating system in the browser that each viewer used. For example, for completed purchases, Macs had the greatest number of sales, with Google Chrome being the most used web browser. Second was Windows, with Chrome also being the main operating system. If there's an operating system or browser that has fewer sales, it would be important to check to see if there are any issues with those platforms or if users can be catered to more. These improvements can lead to better overall usability.
So some other metrics that we wanted to focus on were our acquisition channels, and that's just so that we can better funnel our traffic to the site. 49.2% of the Google Merchandise Store's traffic is coming from organic search, which means that these users are just typing in pretty much keywords on Google and finding listings on Google search without having to pay for those listings. So they're just naturally showing up through search engine optimization. That's half the traffic coming from that one source. So that's very powerful information right there. Also, another piece is 24.2% of our traffic is coming from it's directly, which means these users are typing directly the exact URL into the search bar. This is very powerful information because it's letting us know that our brand awareness and probably word of mouth is working really strongly, because 75% of our traffic is coming from people trying to find us rather than us reaching out for them. Pretty much with this information, we might be able to formulate a strategy that pushes more social advertising towards brand awareness rather than trying to push products onto people.
We've analyzed the usability of a website and where it gets most of its traffic from, but understanding why consumers leave the web page before buying is crucial. For this reason, we have set up tracking on the bounce rate, average session duration, and total abandonment rate on our dashboard. The bounce rate calculates the percentage of people who visit the website and then leave without taking any further action. Understanding why consumers are coming to the page and then leaving without taking any more actions is vastly important because it represents the loss of a possible conversion. This number for the Google Merchandise Store is currently sitting at around 49.7%. At first glance, this number does seem extremely high, but upon more research, it is viewed as average. A bounce rate below 40% is considered excellent, but an appropriate goal for the Google Merchandise Store would be to decrease this number to 45% consistently by the end of the second quarter. The average session duration is a calculation of how long a consumer browses the website per session. The higher this number, the more time a user is spending browsing each page. And that number is currently sitting at about 2 minutes and 46 seconds. Keep in mind that the product offerings are vast and the information is very dense for each page, so this number is relatively small. When you combine this with a conversion rate of 0.14%, it shows that there is something wrong and there's a disconnect. Do consumers like the products we are selling? Are they having a hard time navigating the website? Were products out of stock? Or are they even finding what they come to the website looking for? These are the kinds of questions that need to be answered to get down to the root cause of why these numbers are so low. Similar to the bounce rate, the total abandonment rate calculates how often consumers will abandon the product purchasing process after they have already begun the process. That number is currently sitting at about 49.3%. By looking at both of these metrics, we can shift our mindset from a vanity metric standpoint to a more substantial metric, and when we look at the both of them, it really sets up that story and aids us in the process of figuring out how to fix the problem and what actions to take to resolve it. So by doing this, we can begin to investigate why consumers are abandoning their carts at any point during the purchasing process, and why they're abandoning the website as a whole and what we can do to fix this problem.
An additional important metric to track is revenue per user. We have tracked this by using age and gender as the dimensions, and revenue per user and average session duration as the metrics. Users are those that have had at least one session, and it includes both new and returning users. This is an important metric because, according to the article, PCC Metrics That Actually Matter, ROI-focused metrics provide the most complete picture for making meaningful changes to our campaigns. At the end of the day, we want to know how valuable a conversion is to the store's bottom line. We want to understand which leads are becoming paying customers. According to our tracking, females ages 55 through 64 are bringing in the most revenue. A goal based on that understanding would be to encourage that demographic to spend even more per session. The store could emphasize items that would appeal to that specific group, such as travel mugs or wall signs, with sales or promotional banners for those items. They're already spending money on the site, and it will be easier to encourage that group to spend even more money than it would be to convince a new group to start spending at all. On the other hand, research needs to be done to understand why the group bringing in the least revenue, 18 to 24-year-olds, have such a low revenue per user. Is it because there is such a large amount of this group on the site, so the revenue is spread thinner? Or because this demographic group is truly spending less money on products? An analysis would need to be done to determine what could be done to appeal to them, and if it is more beneficial to try to even appeal to them. Another interesting observation from our data is that males 55 through 64 have one of the longest average user durations, yet have one of the lowest revenues per user. What would be causing these users to spend a lot of time on the site, yet not ultimately lead to a conversion? Possibly it is due to there being too many high-priced items on the store. The average order value, according to our data, is $49.05. That seems fairly high for a souvenir-type store. Perhaps including more items under $5 would lead to more conversions for this demographic. Due to the amount of time they spend on the site, we know they care about the brand. However, they may be more willing to commit to items at lower price points.
Other metrics we decided to measure include users, total revenue, total sessions, page views per session value, transactions, conversion rate per user, and checkout to purchase rate. We viewed all of these as important when looked at together because they paint a bigger picture. For example, session is 11.6 thousand higher than total users. This tells us that there are at least that many users since Google Analytics registers users that have cleared their cookies as new users. However, we need to take these metrics from vanity metrics to accountable metrics. This can be done by comparing that number of transactions and realize that such a small percentage of users are actually making it to the decision stage of the funnel. Typically, we would think that users are returning to complete their purchases or even begin their purchases, but this proves that this is not the case. Overall, most of our metrics didn't mean much by themselves, but when you combine them all together, it paints a bigger picture. Based on our findings, we recommend that research be done on user experience across all web browsers and operating systems. This could answer why there is such a drastic difference between some. The next metrics that needs to be looked at is bounce rate. A strategic plan needs to be put into place to reduce the bounce rate by 4%. All questions mentioned above need to be answered before we can determine a plan of action. Digging deeper into the root cause will help us diagnose and fix the problems. Once this is evaluated, changes can be made, whether it is changing the products offered to a wider or more narrow range or improving the overall customer experience. We believe that this will also positively influence an average session duration. There is a positive correlation between a low bounce rate and a high session duration. Our last recommendation is to conduct a research while focusing on coherent analysis to determine why certain demographics spend less money and time on the site. A focus group conducted with each gender and age breakdown will help us understand our target market. It will therefore show what influences their purchase decisions, enable us to alter the site to their preferences if we think it would improve our bottom line. Overall, our recommendation is consistently circling back to the variety of products offered and our price points. This concludes our presentation, and thank you for listening.